Voice of San Diego podcasts are sponsored in part by Hughes Marino. As a nonprofit news organization, Voice of San Diego depends on our members, foundations, and sponsors like Hughes Marino to provide funding to support the investigative journalism you expect from us. We are very grateful for all of our supporters, and we will recognize them during the show. Hughes Marino is San Diego's award-winning commercial real estate firm that exclusively represents tenants and buyers, never landlords. Their wide range of services include tenant representation, project and construction management, lease audit and administration, and culture and design consulting. Whether you're leasing, buying, or building, Hughes Marino can help you find the perfect space for your company to innovate and grow towards the future. Visit hughesmarino.com to learn more. And if you like our work and would like to become a sponsor, contact us at development@voiceofsandiego.org.
Welcome to those of you listening on News Radio 600 Coco, the Voice of San Diego. On podcast, my name is Scott Lewis. I'm here with my friend, Andrew Keatts.
What's up, buddy? Good to be back.
Yeah, refreshed? Did you recreate?
I did. I did a lot of things.
I like the word recreate. It has a lot of meaning. People just say recreate. It's got a lot of meaning in it.
I don't like it.
Recreate.
It's like conversate. I don't think that's a thing.
And hi, Sarah.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm here also.
All right, we have a good show. Andy's back. You traveled with the babies. That's a good experience. Puts hair on your chest.
It was something.
Car seats.
There was a lot of time driving throughout New England where I was sitting in the back seat of a rental car, desperately trying to wave my arms in the manner that would make my baby stop crying.
Yeah.
While we tried to finish the last leg of our journey.
Kind of wish I'd seen that.
Yeah, it was something. Something. You just come up with songs. And it was something.
Yeah, and you know what? You can try to hold it over their head later, and they don't care.
He certainly doesn't care
weird
right
that
now.
way.
It's not. It's not even aware.
Yeah.
All right, we have a good show. We have reminder. We have a live podcast July 18th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Whistle Stop Bar. We are booking special guests right now. It's not just going to be an opportunity to watch us record the show. It's also we'll have some interaction and hopefully some fun. And the guests we're talking to sound like they would be a lot of fun as well. So it's open to the public. It's a kind of a special edition of our Brews and News. I wanted to start first. A couple of big issues want to go up, but I just wanted to start with this study that we got out. We were very excited to get this study. It was a study about
from the city of San Diego.
From the city of San Diego. You'll recall several months ago, David Alvarez did not join the majority to support did not make a majority to support regulations on vacation rentals.
Right. He didn't support his plan to regulate vacation rentals.
Thanks for the clarification. Yes, that. And then instead he said, look, we should maybe consider a fee on these for affordable housing needs if they are affecting affordable housing. So we should get a study in the works to vet that.
That's not quite right.
Okay.
It was already agreed that there would be a fee.
Oh.
This was not like a last minute negotiation. That was part of the plan.
Okay.
But it was clarified at the hearing that they wouldn't be able to start collecting the fee until they had conducted a study, because it was a legal requirement to study the nexus between the thing that you're charging for and what you're aiming to pay for it for.
Otherwise, it would be a tax in which you'd have to get a vote.
Right. And so staff clarified that they must provide this study in order to start collecting the fee, at which point Councilman Alvarez said, well, I'm not going to vote on this until the study is done.
And so we stupidly assumed that this study about the impact and the nexus between affordable housing and vacation rentals would really help us understand the nexus between affordable housing and vacation rentals.
That was
sounds
stupid of us.
The city stupidly assumed that too. At least one spokeswoman for the city said, yeah, we had thought that it would delve into this, but then the consultant who performed the study told us it should not.
Yeah,
We should do something else.
Instead, the study, $75,000. Really, we're in the wrong writing business, by the way.
Yeah.
This $75,000 report studied not the impact of vacation rental homes on the home market, on the affordable housing market.
Like the supply of homes. And
which is the central contention of people who are upset about vacation rentals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's the supposed. It's a major one they bring up to make their point.
It is a complaint about vacation rentals.
They realize the power of the argument in any way.
Yeah.
That if they could prove that this has a negative impact on the affordability of housing, it would have some significance. If the mayor's office actually established that through the study, that'd be a big deal. The study, though, does not do that. It studies, this cracks me up. It studies the economic impact of the people who will work in those vacation rentals and the other related industries and how much they get paid and whether they need affordable housing. So like the people cleaning the houses or whatever.
Exactly.
It had never even occurred to me that there was a, air quote, industry of people working in vacation rentals.
Or that would be the most important thing to establish.
Yeah, of course not.
Right. No, I mean, when the study came in and Lisa said, yeah, it's a little bit odd. They studied, they conducted this nexus study that justifies the fee, but they didn't ask this question. And I was just sitting there like staring at the ceiling, like, how did they do that? How would one even establish a nexus without looking at the issue?
They found a way.
And then once I heard about it, I was like, oh, so it is truly exactly like the linkage fee study so there was a pretty pronounced political fight maybe 5 years ago now about a fee charged on new development of office and commercial space. And they had to establish a nexus between what that commercial space does to the housing market. And they do the same thing. They say, how much are the people who work in these offices that are being created likely to earn, and how much are they able to pay for housing? And therefore there is a nexus between this office building construction and housing prices. That's literally how they justify charging a fee on commercial development for affordable housing. And they did the same thing here for short-term vacation rentals, which, okay, I guess, but it's just completely detached from any of the conversations we've ever been having about short-term vacation
And that's
rentals.
exactly it. It has a logic. You can understand why it maybe got produced that way.
Yeah.
It's just what world...
I guess.
It's just what world do we need that as any kind of important part of this conversation?
The law.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's it. It's only the logic of the law.
So again, they're going to fly in blind to this. We've done a lot of work trying to establish the connection. We partnered with an agency that did this study, does it for a lot of other places. We still, don't have definitive numbers on that, but the debate is going to head to another climax in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We'll see if that changes anything. All right. Main story this week is, though, the San Diego Unified School District is putting on the November ballot a new property tax increase. But it's not to fund teachers. It's another construction bond. It would fund major repairs, solar panels, charter schools, and other things. It would raise taxes at $60 per $100,000 of assessed value of property. Now, they tried to switch it this year and describe the raise as $6.
6 cents.
6 cents per $100 of assessed value. And they've always done it as like $60 per 100,000. I don't know if
it's the same tax.
It's
the
the
point.
same, yeah.
It's the same tax.
So now that's assessed value, not necessarily market value. So if you bought your house, or whatever. So if the assessor says that your house is worth $400,000, the property tax increase would be $240 per year. To pass, they need 55% of voters to sign off. This will probably be on the November ballot. Voters approved a similar increase in 2012, and that was in our mind as we heard about this news. We'll just get to so Lee Dolgaroff, the head of facilities at San Diego Unified, introduced the measure like this at a hearing that I watched so that you don't have to. Here's Lee Dolgaroff describing it.
The neighborhood school repair and student safety measure addresses the most critical needs our schools are facing today. Improving school security through emergency communications, controlled entry, door locks, upgrading classrooms and labs for vocational career, science, technology, and math education, removing lead in the drinking water and hazardous asbestos.
That lead.
And the asbestos.
And hazardous asbestos.
Yeah.
It's hazardous.
The asbestos, we have pointed out over the years, has been a key part of these bond pushes for each time. We're going to clean asbestos, and they like to build football fields a little bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting that he said it was hazardous because the last time we asked for an update on how the asbestos removal was going, they said it's totally fine and not hurting anyone, and we don't need to remove it.
Yeah.
Also, they treated us like we were crazy for even asking the question.
Yeah.
When it was in the in the title and summary on the ballot that
Yes.
hazardous asbestos would be removed. And when we said how much asbestos, how much of this hazard, a couple years later, we said, how much of this hazardous asbestos have you removed, from which schools? And what we came to learn was when they do other projects, when they retrofit a new classroom with new technology, in the process of doing that, they change out, they remove asbestos if it's there.
Yeah, necessarily.
But that's
They
the
have
only
to.
right,
Yeah.
and that's the only time. There's no
Proactive asbestos removal.
search and
effort.
destroy of asbestos.
Yeah.
And when we raised our eyebrows at that, it was like funhouse mirrors. They really thought we were maniacs for thinking that a ballot measure predicated on removing hazardous asbestos should involve removing hazardous asbestos from schools.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and now we're doing it again.
It's back to being
Now
hazardous.
It's back to being hazardous, and the headline thing that will be addressed by this.
Well, there are other headlines this time,
Yeah.
though.
Lead in the water is one of them.
Lead in the water. So they put up this thing, and it's got Flint, Michigan. Picture that. And then it also has a picture of headlines of the school shootings, Parkland.
Yeah.
So they're really hitting the asbestos,
Safety.
the shootings, now the lead. So here's him describing the nexus, the construction bond with the school safety issue that everybody's thinking about around the country. This Lee Dolgoroff again.
The world has changed significantly, and the sad tragedies of Sandy Hook and over 63 major school shootings since, including Parkland, have started a national dialogue about and changed the way we approach school safety.
So they need to work on entrances and such to schools. And then he followed with the big punch about water quality.
At the same time, we've had lots of old buildings with old plumbing systems, and we've replaced pipes to prevent leaks and related water damage. But recently we found out how older pipes and older fixtures had lead solder that were affecting the quality of our water.
So you can see in there, he's trying, he wants to make the point that there's lead in the water, got to pass this thing. But he also doesn't want to alarm people.
Don't be alarmed. Your children are safe. Also, vote for this on account of there's lead in the water.
That will hurt their tiny brains.
I know.
Presumably.
But so this is the perfect sort of arc of vulnerability that the school district is always in. It's at first there was no lead.
Yes.
Then the next thing was that there was lead, but it was only detected because we raised alarm
such
about
high standards.
Because we tested the lead, and the act of testing it is what released the lead into the water. It wasn't there just naturally, and it's so far removed from what you actually get from the drinking fountain. They sent this elaborate diagram of how far removed the lead was from kids actually drinking it.
And then the next step was
not a low profile thing. This campaign to assure everybody about the safety of the water.
Yeah, no, and then the next step was it's all fine.
Yeah. So I was pouring through some San Diego Unified press releases, as one does. And so I came across one press release where they touted, we did this round of high-level lead testing at 15 campuses, nothing. They didn't find anything. Water's great. Tests keep going great. We didn't find anything. Everything is safe. And then Buried within this press release they sent out for the first day of school for this last school year, it details all these activities, kids arriving to campus, and here's all the cool things you can expect for the school year, is this line about like all the great things on deck for the year. And it says, the district is poised to be a leader in clean drinking water under our efforts to test for lead and remediate water fountains. So they are just poised to be like the standout safe, clean water star.
It is interesting then that a mere 9 months later, we're Flint.
Yes.
Yeah, we were Flint. They put up Flint on the screen. They said they did polling, and in order to gauge people's support of this, they used that. They said they cited the need to repair aging classrooms, eliminate lead from drinking water, and do more to protect schools. Now, look, they have used replacing plumbing as an argument for these bonds. For a state bond in 2004, the bond Prop S in 2008, the bond in 2012, Prop Z, which raised the tax at the same level they want to do now, all to increase, and they even cited that same school where that was most affected over and over and over again, and they never replaced the plumbing.
But they might next year.
But they wanted us to clarify that it is on the map to get taken care of next year under the old bond.
Right. But they still need a new bond to replace it also.
Right.
It's just
Also, so Ashley McGlone wrote a story about this week that, the projects, the descriptions called out in this most recent bond are uncannily similar to the last two measures.
right.
Sometimes verbatim, word for word.
Which is interesting because at this presentation, they mentioned the Parkland shooting and the Flint lead crisis, both of which are events that have taken place since the last bond measure went forward, meaning they seem to have some sort of prescience about these tragedies that would come up that would somehow still retroactively apply to the same set of projects that they were previously aiming to address.
I mean, look, there's no question in my mind that they were going to do a bond like this.
Right.
And these just fit. These arguments just fit now.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was another point that really stuck out for me. One of the biggest claims they're making is about climate change too. So another big worry. So they said in 2012, I just remember that Scott Barnett, he was on the board then, and he was really pushing Proposition Z. And he and other consultants initially attacked the issue that the bond wouldn't fund teachers with a specific argument. His point was, look, we're going to put in a bunch of solar panels, and that's going to eliminate our energy bills. And then that money, that savings then is going to be able to support teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was a lot of solar improvements and such made, but it hasn't materially affected their costs in utilities. They're still very upset about their costs. In fact, it's a point of tension with them and the power company, right? But this is the one that's finally going to take care of it. They really drove that point home several times in the hearing last night or Tuesday night. Here was one of the ways. This was Dolgoff.
Global climate change will also have an impact, a real impact on the lives of our students throughout their lives. This is why San Diego Unified is a leader. We've adopted a climate action plan and sustainable strategies to reduce our carbon emissions, including solar energy, LED lighting, efficient mechanical systems. This bond measure will provide the funding necessary to achieve our zero net energy goal.
So this is it. This is the one that will fully make it so that they don't use any electricity from the grid, from the larger grid.
This one.
This is the one.
This one. Got it.
This is the one. Now, they wanted to really drive this point home, and this is an example of how intense the questioning got from the board.
Oh, I mean, I have no doubt that they really acted as a strong oversight
Surgically,
body.
Give it to me.
Yes.
Show me the
It's like
questioning.
Surgically taking apart their staff to make sure it was rock solid. Here's John Lee Evans was asking about this solar investment, and then Kevin Beiser, who's now the chairman of the board this year, the president of the board, he enthusiastically jumps in.
We have 2 more phases, and this will actually allow us to get to complete net zero.
Okay. So what you're saying is this bond will allow us to get to zero electricity consumption.
That's correct.
Wow.
You can use that money for the classroom rather than paying the utility company.
So you can see real withering criticism and questioning there, just drilling their staff and really holding them accountable. All right, so Richard Barrera wanted to make one sort of a point to taxpayers. He's like, look, this is just one piece of a long puzzle we're still putting together.
We need to continue to invest in our schools. It's not something that we do once and then it's taken care of.
That's clear. First of all, there's the taxes that they keep passing, but those happen every year.
Yeah, money's
We're
taken.
still paying them.
It's not like we're paying the tax once and then not.
Right.
It's something you pay every year for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So there's that. Now, this just reminded me, though, of Scott Barnett again. He was, in 2012, the big champion of Proposition Z. I was hosting a debate with him and the Taxpayers Association back in 2012. By the way, Taxpayers Association just ghosted this whole thing. They're done with caring
About
apparently.
bond measures.
Yeah. So they it reminded me of a clip from Barnett in 2012 about this very issue, about this sort of carryover annually of how much deterioration these facilities face, right?
Every year goes up about $50 million a year because every year the buildings get older. And this has been going back for decades. So what Prop Z is going to do for the first time in history, it actually is going to eliminate all the deferred maintenance.
Apparently didn't.
Seems not to have.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't necessarily vote because it was the first reading of this, but they all were very enthusiastic and had no qualms about it at all. The only people in the audience questioning or worried about it were people who were worried about preserving the school district's headquarters buildings in University Heights as opposed to letting those become housing or whatever.
For historical preservation reasons.
Yes.
Okay. So that was like the
Got it.
okay.
That was the big opposition and
Discussion
community
point.
representatives.
Okay.
So that'll probably be on the ballot. It'll be another bananas ballot. It also is a
Did anyone mention like football stadiums?
No, that didn't come up.
That didn't come
no
up.
question about football stadiums or turf or any of the previous promises. So watch out for that. We've
Asbestos. No one mentioned asbestos.
Not a single word about asbestos or anything like that. All right. We have a lot more going on. We've got a couple other stories to go through in our hero and goat. And so stick around. This has been our first part of the show, done in partnership with News Radio 600 Go.
This Voice of San Diego podcast is brought to you by Manalatus Nelson Murphy, Advertising and Public Relations. As a nonprofit news organization, we depend on our members, foundations, and sponsors like M&M to provide funding to support the investigative journalism you expect from Voice of San Diego. We are very grateful for all of our supporters, and we will recognize them during the show. M&M is run by Tony Manalatus, Bob Nelson, and Kelly Murphy Lampkin, who bring a vast network and decades of experience to developers, public agencies, campaigns, and others. M&M bridges the gap between clients and the people whose influence matters most. M&M develops successful strategies and implements cost-effective tactics to help clients achieve their goals. The firm specializes in public affairs PR and advertising with an emphasis on media relations, crisis communications, community engagement, and cross-platform marketing. Our reporters at Voice of San Diego have heard from Tony and Bob a lot over the years. Tony, Bob, and Kelly are supporters of Voice of San Diego. Learn more about their firm at mnmadpr.com. And if you like Voice of San Diego's work and want to become a sponsor too, contact us at development@voiceofsandiego.org.
We are back. Hello. I'm going to take next week off.
Are you excited? Are you
Yeah.
going to San Onofre?
No, this is a staycation.
Staycation?
I'm going to get a bunch of errands done, surf a little bit. Now, what I'm trying to decide is what level of disconnect I want to try to do. Like the full, like you delete Twitter and Facebook from your phone
Whoa.
disconnect.
You should read a book. Pick a book.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I have a lot of books I feel like I have to read, and then a lot of books I've been wanting to read, and then it just makes me look at Twitter.
I just read Less, the Pulitzer Prize winner.
Was it good?
And it was so good.
Oh,
So good. So that's the book that you should read. I've decided.
You should read that Theranos book.
oh yeah.
Yeah. that
Wall
looks
Street
good.
Journal reporter. That looks
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that sort of
Bad Blood.
real stuff. Bad Blood, as it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, because they tested blood.
Ah,
And also,
yeah.
they like Taylor
They-
Swift, probably.
There's also,
Big part of it. Taylor Swift's a key contributor to the narrative.
we got our last tuition bill for the preschool, which was like
Oof.
huge deal for us. And so now it's ramped up my lobbying for a new truck.
Oh, Jesus.
And what I decided to do is not get a new truck,
Mm-hmm.
but instead like try to clean mine up a little bit, like get a new bumper and stuff. And so I'm going to do that too.
Do you just like backstroke in a living room full of gold now?
Yes. It was really nice. Yeah. That was the childcare thing is kind of something.
Yeah.
It's a burden. All right.
It is.
So we have a lot going on with this politics stuff. And I think, is there anything more clear, though, about how important having the resources to get a signature campaign going can be in California politics? We just watched the soda companies just play California government
Oh, man.
like, what did you say, harpsichord?
Like a harpsichord. I don't know. It seemed like the right instrument
Like they,
based on the mastery that they displayed.
Yeah, they held the legislature hostage and they paid the ransom.
yeah,
Like enthusiastically and before any sort of deadline. It was just
Yeah.
like, here's all of our money. Take it, please.
So-
Please let us go back to being about our business.
So remember, we talked about this particular initiative because it has significant, or would have had significant impacts in San Diego. This was, the soda companies are mad that Berkeley passed a tax, and they were worried that other cities would do it, and I think San Francisco had done it.
I think there's 3 or so now.
Yeah, and so they were worried, so they said, fine, what we're going to do is pass an initiative that requires that all tax increases across the state, local, whatever, get 2/3 vote. You know, right now, if it's just a general tax increase like these soda taxes were, it just need a 50% vote. And there was that sales tax in Chula Vista this last go around in June that passed with just barely 51% or so, which is for general purposes, like it just goes into the city government. Now, if you have a specific tax for like a stadium or some specific need, like the San Diego Transnet tax or whatever they called it, Measure A last time, that is 2/3. And so what the soda companies were saying is, say, fine, all taxes everywhere
Everything.
are 2/3 and retroactive for a year. So it would have wiped that already passed
Chula Vista,
Chula Vista
measure.
tax
Yeah.
off unless it got 2/3 and didn't. And it also had impact potentially on the convention center, the signature gatherers going around right now trying to raise the hotel room tax,
Any tax.
any tax.
Any tax.
And they're hoping potentially for 50% because it's a citizens initiative. This would have eliminated that.
Mm-hmm.
The soda company spent millions of dollars, led by Pepsi, Red Bull, Coke, all of them, Snapple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Snapple was such a player these days, still is. And they had all these signatures. They turned it in today, or Thursday was the deadline
Mm-hmm.
to put it on the ballot or not. They struck a deal with the governor and the legislature to eliminate the possibility of these soda taxes anywhere in California, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And in exchange, they got rid of this measure, which the soda tax companies didn't really care about the measure. This was entirely about leverage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leverage that they had the
And they got
financial
it.
resources to.
And there's even a great story about there's 2 good stories. One of this dinner soda companies had with the governor, right?
I think they wanted to have a dinner.
Oh.
They were begging to have a dinner. It was the American Heart Association.
Oh, right.
So they don't like soda, they want people to not drink it and be healthy. And so they wrote this like plea. They wrote an op-ed in the Sacramento Bee and had all these pleas online like, Jerry Brown, please just sit down to dinner with us before you make this decision and hear me out about how bad soda is for you before you do this. And it sounds like that did not happen.
Didn't happen. And then there was this is in a classic California, they had to make sure that one specific beverage was not included in the discussion about soda taxes as soda. What was it?
It's kombucha.
Yeah,
it's just like every year there's like certain things that happen in the legislature that are just like so California, like farmers market, craft beer sampling rules. And it's like, I love you, California.
All right, we have 2 dramas going on with our own signature gathering efforts in San Diego and the power or not very much power of them. Supporters of the Yes for a Better San Diego campaign. This is the one to collect enough signatures to put a measure on the ballot that would raise hotel room taxes. They fund the convention center, fund homeless services, fund road repair. But really, it's the convention center. And they pledged they would turn signatures in last week, Monday, but something went wrong. They did not. But they won't tell us that something went wrong. They don't like to admit any vulnerability.
It's already pretty late, right? Like even if they had done it Monday, that would have been unusual.
Yeah, it's already late. They could turn in signatures now, but nothing can be wrong. Right. Like it has to go perfectly to get on the ballot. There can't be an effort to recount all the signatures.
Like I think what was it? It was Measure D, the Briggs initiative, that they turned in signatures, and there was like the random sampling count suggested that they might need more. They put it in with enough time that they could still go out and get more. But
right.
they've lost that ability.
Yeah,
that margin of error is gone now.
There's no messing around. The registrar, I finally figured this out. So the registrar takes a small sample, sees how many of them signatures are valid, then projects that through how many signatures were turned in.
Right. And
if it's between 95 and 110% of what they need, then it automatically goes to a full recount. If it's over 110% with that projection, it wins. It gets on the ballot. If it's under 95, it's done. So they have no time for any of that. It has to pass right away. It has to get over that 110%. So nothing's wrong. Remember, everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's going fine with the whole campaign. But this week, members...
The thing about the partnership between all these groups is that it's all fine.
It's all great.
And it's all going great.
Yeah.
It's a model.
I'm really happy for them.
Everybody's happy because it's going so well.
Everything's really going... It's a model of how they can cooperate in the future. Now...
They missed the deadline because they were having such a good time working together that they were like, let's do it more and longer with each other on account of how well this is going.
Drink a Coke?
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the people who funded this campaign, which is, by the way, about $1 million right now.
It's like a summer camp. It's like a summer camp where like the groups are having a good time together, and like archery's fun, but so is swimming. And it's like, we can keep doing all these things, but like, crafts are fun. Let's do some more crafts.
We still got a late deadline. Why are we rushing?
Yeah.
So many of the people who funded this, by the way, very expensive campaign, are part of the Downtown Partnership in the Chamber of Commerce, and they might have been a little chagrined to get these pieces of email from the leaders of those 2 organizations, the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Partnership, saying, hey, we need you to go out now and one by one get signatures yourselves. And you're not going to get the $10 per signature that the pros are getting. Because nothing's wrong.
They invited them to the party.
Yeah.
They're like, listen, we are having a blast down here. You know what you guys would like to do? Collect signatures from people in your office building.
Yeah, I enjoy it when people ask me to buy Girl Scout cookies at the office.
Yeah.
Not so much probably when it's signatures.
Signatures? Yeah.
Now, here's something that really stood out for me.
So just to clarify here, in the same afternoon, the conch horn was blown for the Downtown Partnership mailing list and the Chamber of Commerce mailing list. A call to action that we really need these signatures. Time is of the essence. There was even it like sounded like a campaign contribution request. It was like, if everybody gets 40 signatures, 50. If every one of you gets 50 signatures, which is like...
That's a lot.
I wouldn't... It's like... I don't think I know 50 people.
It would take effort.
Yeah, it would take effort to go.
I talked to some of those people that tried to get the write-in 200 signatures for the school board.
Yeah.
That not easy.
Right.
So can you imagine being
You've donated a fair amount of money,
$100,000, and they're like, "Hey, can you maybe walk some?
Can you
streets?
Get a clipboard and go be one of the people who gets in fights outside of Trader Joe's?
Your lunch break, go around to
or
your
put it out on
offices.
Put it out on your lobby and see if anybody wants to sign it. Okay, so there's really interesting decision,
but that's fine. But it's fine.
It's fine.
It's
also
fine. This is standard procedure because it's fine.
Hypothetically, if things weren't fine,
which is not the case,
because it's fine,
everything's fine.
But hypothetically, were it not the case,
but it is the case that it's fine.
True. Then they have a very interesting decision right now, because they can roll the dice right now with the signatures they have and try to get it on the ballot measure. The risk being, of course, that it doesn't get on the ballot, and thus they have lit all these people's money on fire.
But they'll have the memories because this was so much fun.
And so and
it was going so well. So you can't take that. That's in our hearts. You can't take that. That's regardless of what happens with the ballot.
Sometimes I wonder how we get paid to do this. Okay, so that's the risk.
The memories will live forever.
So if it passes, they're fine. Everything's fine. We can put away any worries we had.
Right.
Now, if the other
which were unwarranted.
The other option, let's say they were worried, even though they're
dying,
even though they're not worried. I'm trying
no
to get
reason
through
to
this.
be.
Even though they're not worried, the other option is that the city council can just cut all this BS and just put it on the ballot.
Right.
Yes.
For that matter, could have months ago.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, this would be a way to
using $0 of people's private money, not asking high-priced lawyers to go stand in the lobby of their building with a clipboard, skipping over all of that.
Could put it on the ballot. Now, that would have two consequences. One is that it would require a 2/3 vote no matter what.
Right.
For the people to pass it. The other consequence is that that's just booking the loss, right? That's like a gambler saying like, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take my losses. And
at this point, if they did that at this point, yes.
I already lost your $1 million, but we got it on the ballot. Sorry.
One of the things that's good about like where I sit in the world is that I'll never have to tell anyone I lost your $1 million.
Nice.
I'll never be in that position. That'll never happen for me.
That would be a weird feeling.
Know.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm certain that no one will ever entrust me with $1 million. Because
it's one thing.
I'm sure of.
It's one thing to lose a campaign.
Yeah, sure. Will of the voters, you can't do it.
But it's another thing to say, we're going to get this on the ballot. It's not going to be a problem. And then to come back and say, yo.
I know.
Okay, so that decision is being made somewhere right now. They are having that conversation of do we have the council put it on the ballot, or do we just go with the signatures? And it sounds like they're saying
that conversation's not happening. It's all fine
because it's all fine.
Everything's fine. So
we'll see what happens with this. There's another drama with signatures going on.
Mm-hmm.
The county, full voter
participators.
They want so much participation that they want to add more syllables to the word.
Full voter participation, the initiative, collected about 100,000 signatures to change county elections so that the supervisors and the DA have to go to a runoff in November. We've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
This was made possible by a clarification of California law championed by Todd Gloria. Todd Gloria put this through. They built the referendum and the initiative on top of it. But one part of that law that Todd Gloria passed said that you actually need to collect 10% of all voters' signatures in the county to get this on the ballot. When in fact, they meant it to be like every other or most other initiatives, which is that it takes 10% of the last group of people who voted in the last election.
Which is
much smaller.
To clarify, it's a smaller amount.
Much smaller.
The 10% of the whole county is 160,000 signatures, and the 10% of all voters is about 60,000. So they collected 100,000. Michael Vu, the registrar of voters, said that's not enough. Your initiative or your legal law here, your legal language says it needs to be 10% of all voters. So they put in a new state law.
Trying to clarify the old one, basically.
Yes,
goes through
retroactively.
Goes through the assembly, then it goes through the Senate, then the governor just today signed off on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little addendum to the state budget. So it's like, here's all the things that will be funded. And also, by the way, you need 10% of voters in the county of San Diego.
Yes, because so they say total mistake. We're just clarifying what we need. So now Vu, registrar of voters, says, okay, I'll relook at this, but I got a lot of other stuff going on. And so now it's not clear that he will get through the counting of those signatures in time for it to get on the ballot.
That would be something.
That would be something.
That would be something. I mean, when he just says, well, look, like the law says what it says. I didn't write it. I'm just going to interpret it on its plain, exactly as it's written. That seems understandable. But now they've clarified the intent.
Although that on its own drew some criticism from people who said that was a politically motivated decision.
That even doing that was politically motivated. But at least you have the defense of like,
it's literally
what
the
does
words
say.
What I'm doing, what it says.
It does say that in the law.
Being like, well, I'm busy.
Yeah, I got a lot going on.
I've got a lot going on. Seems harder to stand by.
I think it's not necessarily him they're worried about. The board of supervisors has certain steps that need to be taken after the count or whatever goes, and then they put it on the ballot. And if they delay anywhere past August 10th, that's the worry. So we'll see what happens there and whether it gets on the ballot for November. A lot of things getting on the ballot. It's kind of just a show we should do. The things getting on the ballot.
Yeah.
We got a busy PolitiFest this year. October 6th, put it on your agenda because we're going to try to explain all this stuff so you can vote in an informed way. All right, happy 4th, everyone. I'll be back. You guys can handle this next week?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
No problem. It'll probably be better and fun.
America, Sarah, Andy.
All right.
That's it.
That's the show.
That's the show.
That's the show.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our hero of the week. Comic-Con is coming. It's always a big thing around here. But we're giving the hero to the Convention Center Corporation and the City of San Diego for deciding to close Harbor Drive in front of the Convention Center for that few days because it's nice when they close roads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just probably smart. I remember there was a couple accidents. One lady got hurt badly. And also just San Diego needs to have more time where we close the streets because it's awesome.
It's great.
You want them to do it permanently.
I think they should close Harbor Drive from Grape Street by the county building down to 5th Avenue. And it should be permanently closed. And I think people would dance in the streets if they did. I think it would change our access to the waterfront. I thought about this when I walked our Russian friend. I decided I was going to take him to an event at the Marriott.
Mm-hmm.
From our office, it's just a straight shot. You can just take Front Street all the way down. But I'm like, I'm going to walk along the water with him and show him the waterfront a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The Midway and Seaport Village and stuff. It was awful. Walking over there was awful. It was hard to get there. Where to like actually get to the harbor was hard. I was kind of embarrassed. And like they've done a lot to improve that area and it's still just gnarly. And I know there's a lot going on. There's Navy Broadway and there's the Seaport Village redo and all that stuff. But I was just like, why do we even need Harbor Drive there? Like there's Pacific Highway. It's literally called a highway.
Yeah.
It seems like a way to get there. There's 1st and 5th and Front. There's all kinds of ways to get down there. I know there's probably some access to the Marriott and the Hyatt that they would want to protect, but maybe we could figure out that. But how awesome would it be to have that whole strip, just like people riding their bikes, walking, kids, plazas?
I can't imagine a road that you could propose closing that I would oppose.
Right.
Anywhere in the city.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Then let's do it. Let's close. Anyway, it's nice to experiment with that stuff. Good job to those entities, and let's think bigger about that. If they do screw up this convention, on the off chance that they screw up this expansion of the convention center,
Unlikely since everything's fine.
then maybe they could consider closing Harbor Drive and expanding it over there somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, do something different. All right. Our goat of the week.
You lose! Good day, sir!
All right, this one goes to ex-police chief Shelley Zimmerman. So our friend Jesse Marks reported that back when Shelley Zimmerman testified before the city council, when the council was deciding whether to give permits to these marijuana businesses that do things like testing and cultivation, she went before the council and said, pump the brakes. These facilities basically attract a lot of crime. They're very dangerous, crime-ridden, and she cited what she said were close to 300 police calls to existing medical marijuana dispensaries to show how dangerous they are. And so Jesse went through those calls, and it turns out that a lot of them were not to marijuana businesses at all. So a lot of them are like in strip malls or big office complexes, and there's no way to determine whether like a call for, somebody falling on the stairs at one of those complexes was attributed to a medical marijuana facility. There are also things like traffic stops nearby, people rummaging in dumpsters behind a complex. So all of these things are wrapped into her supposed, all these calls attracted. And what's interesting is that even though the city council passed that measure, despite her warnings, her testimony is now being used in other cities. People are bringing it up as other cities are contemplating their own marijuana measures and saying, well, San Diego's police chief Shelley Zimmerman said these things are really, really unsafe. So
yeah, and it actually it put the brakes on the proposal that was going forward in Imperial Beach.
Yes.
The community there overwhelmingly supports access to marijuana, but then sort of put the brakes on their regulations that they were passing.
Yeah, and so Oceanside is contemplating it also. His police chief, or their police chief, brought it up and said, let's hold off. We need to study this more. Let's check out these stats from San Diego. So
all these communities they clearly want the cannabis, but they want it airlifted in.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to do with.
They just want it to appear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some kind of drone or something. We want to hear from you. We would like to hear your thoughts. Would you like the school bond proposal? Would you support the hotel tax measure? What do you think about closing Harbor Drive from Fifth Avenue to Grape Street and maybe related ideas? Any of those thoughts, let us know. We'd like to hear from you. You can always call this line and leave a message, and be sure to clarify whether you would be okay with us using your name, and also say what neighborhood you're calling from or what region. And we'll see about referencing you. So the number to call is 619-354-1085. That's 619-354-1085. Call it. Nobody's going to answer, and you can let us have it, or you can just let us know your thoughts, and we'll check it in and see if it's worth putting on the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Voice of San Diego podcast. This show is part of the Voice of San Diego podcast network. Visit voiceofsandiego.org/podcast to learn more about our education podcast, Good Schools for All, and our partner shows Beer Talk Radio, the Kept Faith Sports Podcast, and the rest of the shows in the network of local podcasts.